when he does. So why don't we get started?
I can turn it off. I just turned it off.
But you can,
All right, so
I can put a plate
I
together.
move we start this meeting.
Okay.
Go to order. On the agenda, our first item is the consent agenda.
I'm just worried
Which
I lose it. I
includes-
don't trust it.
Which includes the approval of minutes from the August 25th Board of Directors meeting as emailed. You've all got that.
The only correction is October,
August,
November 12th for year in review as opposed to November 10th.
correct. Okay. And we also have Pam's treasury report for the second quarter. You'll all had time to take a look at that, review it. Do
Great
we have any
job.
questions?
Like we're in good
Any
shape.
Okay, no questions, no comments. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes and the treasury report? Gene, very good. And a second,
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
okay.
Who's seconding that?
Come on, guys, we need a second.
This is Kim. I second it.
Thank you.
We can't see you, Kim, but that's okay.
And I'm getting there. I'm getting home, so I'm trying to get settled in. But I'm here and I'll second the motion. So
Okay, very good. So that passes.
Well, we do have to
Alright.
vote.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of people on mute here, so that may be part of the problem. But that's okay if you'd like to be muted as well.
All right, number 2, remarks. We'll just fly through this real quick and I just want to say that we are slowly getting back to our normal summer activities. Well, summer's over, but we got a lot done this summer. Not as much as the previous years, but I wanted to say good job, everyone. We did get something accomplished, and hopefully next year we can get back to more of a normal scheduled meeting, work projects, activities, and et cetera. I think the last thing we did was the BB Fishing Derby over Labor Day, and that was a huge success. We won't go through committee reports since we've don't have the time. Plus, Bill sent in a good article in the last newsletter, which gave a good report on what happened.
Good job, Bill, on your first time.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome. Moving on to old business, we filed against the Union Milling Company's proposal and permit application to get their mill expanded and online. And then they had an open house this past weekend, and Karen and Reed and myself and my wife went up, and they had a good Q&A going on. It was freezing cold. It was at the fish hatchery. It was friggin' snowing, and we were outdoors under a covered picnic pavilion, and very cold. But we got to ask a lot of questions, got a lot of information. I think the 4 of us felt much better about what they're doing. There's certainly some positives. Our mining specialist engineer from TU, Jason Willis, has not looked it over yet. He's winding up all his summer activities and projects. And when he gets that done, he's going to meet with these people. And he knows a whole lot more about the technical side of the liners and the alarms and all the things they're going to do. And I think we're really going to look to him for his expertise on a final judgment there. Yeah, Karen.
So to update you guests here, this is a mining process that they're going to take the old slag from some of the old mines in Leadville, move them to their new mill, which is down on Highway 24. It's across from California Gulch. It doesn't have anything to do with California Gulch or the treatment plant there. They already have a permit to mine, but they want an amendment to update the way they do it. And we didn't really file an opposition. We filed with questions that we wanted to have answered based on TU's mine reclamation specialist, Jason Willis's suggestion. So we literally took his suggestions and they were already incorporated into that. And I think all of us felt pretty good about the method. It's the same method that Climax is using to capture things, and it won't really be a pond where wildlife could get into it, but more like a sand pit and small. And they're willing to do a tour with us in the spring. And both the current owners and the former owners of this mill were present at this, along with a friend of Jason's, who's their consultant, their geologic scientist, who knows all the CTU people as well. So I felt pretty good about that.
Good explanation. All right. I talked to the TU staffer in this state, Lauren Duncan, who works for Jason Willis. She's also a mining engineer and reclamation expert, and she sits on the DMRS state board. And when the chapter files an opposition letter or a letter of concern, and these go up to her, she's sometimes in a position where she has a conflict of interest between representing TU and the job she's supposed to do on this board. So we had a brief conversation exploring that, and she had consulted with their legal, the TU attorney, who said basically for chapters to just go ahead, file and do what you all think is right. Don't worry about Lauren's position. So that's where we left it. She was comfortable with it, and so were we. So that's where that stands. All right, so let's get into our elections. As we all know, we have 4 candidates here for 4 positions. We're looking for at least 2 to replace 2 terms that are expiring. Larry Payne and Eric Etzel. They have finished their 3-year terms, and we have 4 hopefully coming on, and that would be wonderful to expand the board. We would love to have a little larger group, and also a younger group. Several of you are a little bit younger than me, or maybe Keith. Some of us.
Everybody's younger than me.
Yeah, right. Younger than Keith. So go ahead, Keith.
Well, I just wanted to jump in here. I might be jumping your gun a little bit, but we have 4 guests here. I think that's the most guests we've had at any board meeting since I've been around. I'd like to welcome them here, thank them for attending, and maybe just have them now go around and say who they are. I know Garrett by email. Bob, of course, we all know. Brian Ward and I have worked together at Extreme Explorers. I don't know Dave Belmont. So I'd like to hear from him. If that's all right to do now, maybe 2 minutes for
That's
me.
where I was going. That's where I was going. I was going to, I've had individual conversations with all of them, briefly describing the board and what we're up to, frequency of meetings, finances, and that we're in good shape, et cetera, and that we have myself, who was the VP this past year, ending my term as well, and that leaves an opening in our leadership, as well as we have been operating without a president for a couple of years. So we have that challenge to fulfill, but it's wonderful that we're adding to our board members number. So yeah, let's everyone take a couple minutes to introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you're from and what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe we can start with, well, Bob. How about Bob? Everyone knows Bob.
Probably
on the
not,
current
actually.
board, but the new board candidates don't, so it will be a little redundant, but please tell them what your background is, Bob, and whatever else you'd like to say or offer.
Thanks, Rick. I currently work part-time it's kind of part-time, I guess, with the Arkansas River Outfitters Association. I work as their executive director. And with that role, puts me into the water community pretty heavily. I represent recreation on the Arkansas River Basin Roundtable, where I am also the vice chair for non-consumptive use. And I chair the Environmental Recreation Committee for that group. I also chair the Citizens Task Force for the Arkansas Headwaters Recreation Area. So I'm kind of involved in a lot of water type things. I guess I'm following Reed Dill's footsteps. He's been my mentor for many years with water situations, and we're just trying to take that all to another level. I think my contributions here would be about keeping TU abreast of what's going on in our basin with that. With what the different subcommittees are doing, people like the Arkansas River Watershed Coalition and the Upper Ark Watershed Partnership, and so many people doing so much in this valley. I think we are kind of setting the tone for this kind of work in the state. So it's kind of good to be part of. And so I think TU should be involved with that. And I think you have been. You've had some good reps, Donald Masta and Drew Pertnell. But like Rick and I talked about, those guys are kind of a little ways away now, moved out and doing some different things. So I don't know, I thought I'd step in and see if I can contribute in that way.
And Bobby's also a former fishing outfitter, rafting outfitter, and we've done fishing with him before, and he would be an awesome addition, and we've known him for decades.
40 years, I guess we go back. Oh,
Yeah, Bob,
my.
you sure bring a ton of experience to the tables, and that's wonderful. So we're glad to see you here tonight and getting you on board.
Bob, you used the term chairman for quite a few activities, which is impressive. Would you equate the word chairman with president by any chance?
I think you should let me get my feet wet with you guys a little bit so you get to know what I do. But I do chair a number of things. I didn't mention that I also chair the board for the Arkansas River Basin Water Forum, which is a educational organization, and we're going to do an event in Salida in April. So I do wear a lot of hats, Keith, and a lot of them are in the chair mode. So I don't think I want to jump in at TU at that level. Let's see how this goes.
Fair enough.
All right, Keith, give them at least a week, would you, before asking? Why don't we go to Brian? You're to the right of Bob, so we kind of do this in an orderly manner. I've never met you, but for those that don't know, Brian's a partner in Moonlight Pizza, a wonderful downtown Salida business, and one that has doing such great things. We love the nonprofit Monday nights, and everyone knows that we participate in that every year. I think this was our third year, and we just did it 2 weeks ago. So we were fortunate to get picked to be one of those businesses that does that. In fact, I think I'm going down next week to pick up a check for the newbies. What they do is they donate 10% back of their daily sales to the nonprofit of the week. And so our chapter was the nonprofit about 3 weeks ago, and it coincided with your full moon night. which is a very, very busy day for you. So we benefited from that because of all the extra business you did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So-
Yeah, so that's, my association with Salida, that's kind of my main thing. As far as Trout Unlimited credentials, I've been in the Valley for about 15 years. I grew up in the Denver area. Used to whitewater raft guide and did a little bit of fly fishing guiding. My recreation focus now is not so much trout fishing as it used to be. I do a fair amount, but I'm more into saltwater fishing and whitewater rafting, running the Grand Canyon, stuff like that. I ran into Tom down on the San Juan last week. That was kind of neat over in Utah.
Tom Palka?
Yeah, we were launching the same day.
Oh, cool.
But I've worked with him and Keith a little bit with the Stream Explorers, and just I've heard that the local chapter is looking for younger blood. I'm not a spring chicken, so to say, but
You're
I
young
can
enough.
qualify as younger blood. So I'm just here to volunteer some time to a community group such as Trout Unlimited.
Awesome.
I will say that
We're
Brian
really-
helped us probably 5-6 years ago, and I'm not sure I've been able to be at a Stream Explorers thing with you since, but it was so exciting to have a young person there, and he was enthusiastic and helped the kids, and has a great love for the community. So it's really exciting for us, and I really appreciate your being willing to throw your hat in the ring. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just add that Brian was a great help on Stream Explorers fly tying day a week ago Friday. Or was it last Friday? Anyway, I think he's even more patient than I am with the kids. So he's a great asset to have the willingness to help us out on Stream Explorer stuff. And he just did it a week ago.
You signed up to do a fish stocking up over in the West Cliff area a couple years ago. I think you went up on that, but I didn't run into you or I didn't meet you. I was looking for you. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people there.
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Did you get a bag to haul up the mountain?
Yeah. My girlfriend and I each got to hike one in. So that was pretty cool.
Okay, good. They ran out of fish. So we had extra there. Some people unfortunately drove all the way over there and weren't able to hike up the mountain, but that was quite a hike. I think it rained. Yeah. Great. So, Brian, great to have you aboard. Thank you for that. Garrett, why don't you talk? Here's the youngest person in the group who just graduated from Colorado Mountain College and got a degree in natural resource management. Did you? And with the GIS, is that mapping?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a recent graduate of Colorado Mountain College in a degree of natural resource management and a certificate in GIS, which is primarily mapping. It entails a little bit more things, but for the most part, it's mapping. As a student, I was able to start a Five Rivers Club as well. We worked primarily with the Gore Range chapter, and Greg Hardy and Al Wood were really good in helping us start that club and get some events going and whatnot. We did a lot of fly tying, casting clinics with the campus community. We did a fishing trip, and we did some trash pickup on the campus, as well as along the Arkansas River. COVID kind of threw us for a loop a little bit, but I think we managed to, do the best we can. We got some good things done. So I'm really just looking to contribute to this chapter and help it grow and do some good things.
Did you just graduate?
Yeah, I graduated in the spring.
Okay, super. And you're going to be moving up to Leadville. You're you're going to school in Leadville, then you told me you came, you're down here somewhere and you're going back,
Yeah, I currently
up to
work
left.
for the Forest Service out of Lake George on a wildland fire crew. My season's ending in maybe 2 weeks, if not sooner, depending on funding. But yeah, I'll be back up in the Leadville area for the winter and continue on as well into the summer and
okay.
hopefully many more years.
So Garrett,
is-
was Mark Cole part of any of your instruction?
No, I'm aware that he does the fly fishing guide school up there, but yeah, we were never able to connect with him for whatever reason. The whole COVID thing kind of,
Right,
yeah, it didn't help, that's for sure.
right, there. Great.
Garrett, can you tell me how many members did you have in your Five Rivers Club?
Let's see, we had about a dozen and about 8 of those were really active. So, and they're actually continuing on with the club. So that was good to see them continue on even after I graduated. So
So are they all TU members? Or members of this specific club that has a TU affiliation?
they're just members of the club. I think a few of them are affiliated with some TU chapter somewhere, whether it's from their home state or some local chapter. But yeah, a lot of them just wanted to get into the sport, and we were just a means of doing that for them.
Well, maybe we can get some of them involved down here.
Yeah, that'd be
We-
great.
Yeah, we do a lot of things up north,
Mhm.
in the BV and north areas, so it wouldn't be too far for them to come down.
No, it would not.
For years, we've done the 5th grade Pathways to Fishing program up in Leadville. And we did a
Okay.
Stream Explorers program last year or the year before. Is that correct, Keith?
The year before, it didn't happen last year for
Right.
various reasons.
Okay.
Well, Garrett, I would like to say I've always felt that we needed to have some representation on the board for that part of our county. Mark and Judy Cole are always strong members, but again, we have several chapter members who live up in Leadville that need some representation. And
Yeah.
also, we need to have some ears on the ground about what we can do as a chapter in that area. So I'm excited to meet you tonight.
Yeah, it's great to meet you all.
We do have,
Electronically.
we do have quite a few members up there. And I don't know if it's the distance, but it's hard to get a lot of them involved, but maybe you
Yeah.
could be there. Help us get more people involved.
One thing that's coming up is, John Andrick, one of our members, sold a whole stretch of river right above Colorado 82, above Independence, a couple past sections. And I think Parks and Wildlife might own it, but Central Colorado Conservancy is involved with management, maybe Colorado Open Public Lands, but also Lake County is involved, because according to the Conservancy people, they aren't having anybody technically being able to go on that land yet, even though it's public land. And one of the upcoming things with Lake County is going to be access, and who's going to be working on that. So you would be a great person to be a liaison with those kinds of meetings, if that were to interest you,
Yeah, that would-
especially with your GIS, because it's
Uh-huh.
not mapped or signed very well.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to get involved with that.
Good.
There's Kim. All right. Thanks, Garrett. That leaves Dave. Dave Belmont, are you out there? Dave.
Unmute
I
yourself,
saw you.
Dave.
Pardon me? I saw him earlier.
There he is.
Dave, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
You must be muted.
And I only have 12 people on my screen. I don't have him up, but he was there earlier.
No, he's-
Dave is there and
he's
he
there.
says he's unmuted, but we are not hearing you, Dave. Maybe mute
Did
and
you turn
unmute.
on computer audio?
Can you log out and then log back in? That works for people.
Quite likely, you don't know it, Dave, you might have your computer volume all the way down.
So while we're waiting for Dave, do the other three of you new candidates have any questions for us? We've been kind of asking away and
What about
anything
Brian?
you're wondering after, any questions unanswered? Yes, no, we're good. Okay. Any board members would have any questions for the candidates? Other
Ryan,
than
I want to know if that's a Grand Canyon background or if you were there.
No, this is a picture of the San Juan,
Okay,
the Gooseneck State Park in
Okay.
Utah.
yep.
Yeah.
What was the level when you guys floated last week?
So we were expecting a flow of about 500 and we launched at about 500 or 600 and then rains in Colorado spiked it to 1500. So we had really good
Oh.
flows.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So that was
I think it did
unexpected.
About 300.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm showing that you have both video and audio, so
Is he still there?
Hey, welcome, Reed.
He's here, but we can't hear him.
Well, my guess is his computer is, volume is muted.
Did you go up to the top to your computer audio?
Well, I don't think it's audio. I think it's more likely the permission of the microphone.
Now
With-
you're
with
muted by
volume,
his thing.
There you go.
Well,
Well,
talk a little
Rick-
bit about Dave from what I know. Yeah, Jim.
Well, okay. I just want to tell you, the four of you, I've been on the board about, I don't know, close to a year now. And it's really refreshing to see some veterans as well as younger folks coming on. Thank you very much for volunteering to throw your name in the hat. Hope to see you quite a bit in the near future. Thank you.
Anyone else?
It looks like Dave might be trying to call in, which sometimes works.
So Dave's a partner in Salida Family Dentistry. I'll just tell you what I know, and I think Tom Polka, some of us have met him. He's attended a year in review meeting at least once.
Yeah.
So he's a chapter member, and so for a couple years, I don't think he's been in Salida for too long. I'm trying to remember if he told me like 4 or 5 years. I think he graduated from dental school of Denver.
Can you help me?
There's a picture of him. First time
Can you
I've
guys-
seen a
Can
screen.
you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Let me try and figure it. Sorry, it wasn't. Here we go.
There he is.
There
Good,
you
welcome,
go.
Dave.
Hello.
We just nominated you for president since things couldn't answer.
It's only been 2 years of using Zoom via COVID, and I still can't figure out the mute button. So yeah, I've been in Salida about 4 years. I'm a dentist. I think I heard maybe Rick say that at Salida Family Dentistry, and then also we have in Buena Vista as well. I was just looking to get a little bit more involved, learn a little bit more. I honestly, I'm not very strong on the conservation piece of that, but would like to learn more and maybe try to help build community outreach, I guess would maybe be the term. I mean, I know you guys already do a lot of that, but from my own experience, it's been challenging for me to get involved if events are, during the week and midday. So I'm sure with the Parks and Wildlife or whatever resource we're working with, they may limit when and what days of the week and et cetera. But yeah, anything that we can try to help get the community more involved. I think you guys do stuff with the Project Healing Waters. I think that would be a really great thing to continue or grow. I don't know if Trout, this Collegiate Peaks does anything with the Mayfly project. I've learned a little bit about that through a Orvis podcast and was intrigued by that. I know there's a group in Colorado Springs that does that.
Is that the fly tying part that donates to different organizations?
Well, I think they do that plus, fishing with kids. I think they're specifically for kids in the cities, but there might be a lot of, opportunity there. So, yeah, I don't know, just kind of wanted to get more involved.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I remember you're coming to the year in review, and I think we chatted briefly, but it was like that kind of happened, and then everything sort of died. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's a while ago. I'm looking forward. It sounds like next month there'll be another annual meeting, so that'll be fun.
hopefully.
Yeah, while we're on that, everyone is invited to our year-end review meeting. That will be November 12th on a Friday at the Poncha Springs Town Hall. I think we get started at 5. And that's when we present our slate of officers and candidates to membership, and they'll vote at that time. And then we go through committee reports of the whole year. So it's sort of a consensus of information of what we did for the year. And it's also a potluck. And bring beer and wine is fine if you like. A little bit of socializing. We try to circulate and have a little fun and visit. We certainly haven't had much time to do that or opportunities in the past 2 years. We did this via Zoom last year, so we did not meet in person. And we're still having a little bit of conversation whether we want to revert back to doing it again this year on Zoom. And we're going to put a survey out to membership and see what they're all thinking. But at this point, we're trying to have a meeting in person. So you're all invited to attend. Karen.
Are any of you pretty Zoom competent or live stream YouTube competent? Come on, Garrett, you're under 25, man.
I think I'm pretty competent in Zoom. Not so much sure about the YouTube live stream, but I think I could figure it out.
Okay, and we also do fish porn. Tom will be sending out a request for some fish photos, I think. So maybe some of those saltwater photos, Brian, could come in.
Yes, by all means, send any picture. So any trips that members take, noteworthy pics, they send them in and Tom throws them on a rotating slideshow. So that's happening in the background while we're visiting. But yeah, come on out on the 12th.
And I'd like to add that we're looking for all kinds of talent, and this appears to be a pretty talented group. We have a dozen committees that need more direction, I shall say, and new ideas. So I'm excited about your interest with us.
And you do not have to be a board member to be on a committee. So for your friends in Five Rivers or your clients as you're feeding them,
Good point.
cleaning their teeth, you've got a captive audience there, David. You know,
Get
Yeah.
the handcuffs out.
yeah, or just a whole younger generation. I know Brian has friends that he fishes with, and just to, you know, spread the word and see what we can do to make, you know, our waters better and educate our youth and keep our lands and rivers conserved.
Absolutely. Jim,
Well, I'll tag on to that, Karen, by saying that before our 4 candidates leave, that our committees are definitely one of the best ways, in addition to our activities, for our membership to be involved. And like Pam said, we need to jumpstart our committees and get our membership involved. And once we do that, we'll generate hopefully some more interest. So that's what I'm hoping to do with the 4 of you hopefully coming on too. So thank you.
I believe I mentioned to all of you that we have our bylaws, which we sent to you for review, our list of committees with descriptions of each committee and who's on those committees presently. And as Jim pointed out, we've been a little quiet the last year. We have physically not been able to get together and do a lot of different activities. So we're gearing up. Hopefully 2022, we can get back to a lot of the things we do. But Project Healing Waters is one of those that was canceled nationally, so we weren't able to participate, and several other things. So that'll give you a good idea of I think there's about 12, and look them over and see where you fit in. I think in January, we'll update this and plug you in where you feel like you can contribute the most. A lot of information on that link.
You know, we have over 300 people in our chapter, but like most organizations, you know, 10% of the people do 90% of the work. We're trying to expand that engagement. We do have an older membership, so some of them just want to give our membership money. That's fine. But when you come to the fishing derbies, it's all these people who volunteer for that particular day that we don't see, you know, the rest of the year. So any ideas to re-engage, you know, your friends, or we could send you rosters to see, oh, I know that person. I didn't even know they were a member, to reach out to them. Just some different ideas.
So that we had well over 25 members at the BV Fishing Derby that came out to volunteer. We had more members than we had jobs for them.
I think with 4th of July Derby too, huge amount of, that's when I think we see the most volunteers for membership come on out and do something. And it takes a lot of bodies. Those 2 events probably are most labor intensive and the most fun, at least for me. It's wonderful to see families and kids out at Franz Lake, and everyone has a ball. We had to do it a little different this year. We didn't provide our normal hot dog lunch. Everything was a little different, but yeah, get a lot of thought through those events. It's great fun.
Dave, you mentioned your interest in fly tying. I noticed that the Buena Vista Library is offering a fly tying class. And I just went today to say, I know that name, and he is a TU member, and he did offer fly tying to the Buena Vista Middle School Outdoor Club at one time. And I can't remember when his classes are. And it used to be that years ago, we would have Fly Fishing 101 classes on the weekend for working people, you know, through the Slider or BV Rec departments. So that's something that we could, you know, try to reinstitute with some new ideas and people willing to work on that. So thanks again for you all stepping up.
All right, we're going to wind up this part of the Q&A. Any other comments from board or candidates about anything before we let you sign off? And then we're going to move on with year-end review planning and discussion on candidates and our slate and officers.
I'm actually normally quite a trusting person, but could I get confirmation from our 4 guests that they are indeed willing to have this, put them on the slate for our elections next month? Jared, are you on the slate?
Yes, yes, I am.
They've all confirmed to me, Keith.
Okay, good.
Yep. Any other questions, comments? All righty then. Well, thank you again for coming out tonight and joining us and telling us a little bit about you. And we look forward to working with you. We'll be back in touch with you after the election is over, but hopefully you'll be there that evening on November 12th. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Bob,
Nice to
Brian,
meet you.
Garrett.
All right.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for volunteering.
Thank you, guys. Nice to meet
Yes.
you all.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we look forward to working with you.
All right, guys, have a good one.
All righty. Good night. Well, that was good. We've got a 20-year-old, someone in their 20s, two people in their 30s.
Awesome.
And Bob, whatever age he is, he's our age, I guess.
Bob's in his 60s,
Is he? Yeah,
but he's good.
Good.
Yeah.
good. As I was telling a couple of them, when I had a one-on-one phone call with each of them, that were, as Karen, you pointed out, we're a very older, we're old chapter, older members. A lot of our founding members are still with us, and we're losing a few of them, and we're getting to the point where we need to pass this on and turn it on to younger generations, and it's that time. And Kim's one of our younger people too, so we're looking forward to their participation, and we eventually, our goal would be to hand it over, to these younger people. So great that we had all this interest. I might mention that on my list was to pursue a couple people, which I did, and they didn't pan out. And one other person, David Moore, who's an ex-board member, current TU member, he expressed interest also in joining the board. He wanted to attend a couple meetings and kind of size up personalities. I think there were some issues in the past with some long meetings and contentiousness and dragging things out. And I assured him that we're pretty efficient. We all get along together well, and that we try to move meetings and limit them to 2 hours. And and also I pointed out to him that he's not going to be able to make this slate. So we'd have to look at him next year if he still was interested in it. So that's where we left with him. Couple of meetings would be into the first or second quarter next year. So with the good response we had with 4 new candidates, I think we can just visit that down the road. And we talked with Bill talked with Jerry Mallett, and we decided that avenue was non-pursuable for a lot of reasons, but he's a very busy guy. And so we're left with wonderful candidates, and that's where we're at.
And I approached another woman yesterday who helped us, and I was hoping to get her for this slate, but it sounded like you guys had enough. So I encouraged her to be on a committee and, be on the slate for next year.
There you go. People can only serve on committees. They don't have to be on the board necessarily. Yes, Jim.
I just want to clarify, we have 2 positions open, but we're going to shoot for 4 candidates.
Our bylaws don't limit us to
Okay,
not
Right.
accepting 4. So we have 2 openings, but we're taking on 2+. So
great. Okay,
that'll bring us up to, with Keith being the ex officio, that'll bring us to an even dozen people, which I think is really good, because many times our meetings are, people are out of town or whatever. It's better to have, a larger crew.
Greg,
The bylaws actually state a minimum of 6. There's no upper limit. Karen, were you talking to Lynn Schultz Wurzel
Yeah,
as the person?
yes.
Well, you know, I don't see any problem with bringing on 5 if we've got 5 that are willing to participate.
But it's kind of too late now. I kind of got the direction that
Okay.
we didn't want to go with more, so.
All
But
right. Anyone, any comments at the moment? So, before we get to year in review, which is item 5, I want to skip past that and just cover 6. And just apologize that we, in sake of time, committee reports, everyone's emailed those in, and Bill's done his with Labor Day. We won't be Labor committee reports. As we all know, Stream Explorers is winding down, and the last meeting is, the last class is this Friday. And Moonlight Pizza event, I don't even need to talk about that. It went well, and we'll get a nice check this coming week. The Greenback Stocking event project happened, and Pam's gonna write up something for the December 1st newsletter, or November
Yes.
1st.
Yes, will be an article in the upcoming newsletter. And I'm just gonna say that I was happy to see 3 people, new chapter people, that have not been involved in any of our other events. So we saw Lance Kittle, we saw Craig Hegeman, and Chuck and Marta Kenny. So some new faces. They all reporting having a fabulous time. They enjoyed the event immensely. So it did recruit some new volunteers for us.
so has anybody maybe thought of writing those new people especially, just a little thank you note and referring them to our committees to say, we'd love your involvement. We hope you would continue and get maybe a little bit more involved in some of the other things that we do. Just a little
I've
push.
tried with one of them with Lance, and another one's email bounced back. Lance is a young man that 3 or 4 months ago expressed an interest in joining and getting involved. He's it's kind of like a Dan O'Masta for Oceans Coalition or whatever, another water conservation organization. Graduated from Western out of Gunnison a few years ago, lives in Poncha. And we just couldn't get him to anything. He's moving, he's this, that, he's a very busy young man. But I did follow up and thanked him for coming out for the fish stocking. That's the first thing he's attended. And he also applied for the job, Dan's position, and makes a little more money than that salary offers. So he might have been a CTU employee, but I don't think that's going anywhere. He has good intentions, just not great on follow through.
Could be timing.
So-
Pam, what was their last name? Marta and who?
Chuck and Marta Kenny, Kenney.
And that's the couple
They-
who
Right.
they did not RSVP. They just showed up. They wrote his name down, and I had to look up his email address on the roster, and it bounced back to me. I think he told me he's part-time. He lives in Mesa Antero, and the rest of the year he's in Tennessee, not Tennessee, but
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay.
Kentucky.
All right. He's a member, and he said he's done a couple things, but you guys would know more than me if you've ever seen him around before.
Do you
I
have
have.
a phone number? I have a phone number, so we could call and get his right email. It's on the roster. Maybe I'll try to see if I can do
And,
that.
and I do know a little bit about Craig Hageman. He and I teamed up at the Salida Fishing Derby
Okay,
in fish measuring. So I talked to him a little bit. He, interestingly enough, is part of Governor Polis's IT team.
wow.
And and he's getting ready to retire from that, probably within the next 2 weeks. So he may be around more, I believe. I'm not sure where he lives now, but he will be a new retiree and perhaps have more time for us.
Says he lives in BV.
Does he? Okay.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
nice man.
That's good to know.
Who wants to follow up with the Kentucky couple and call that number and get their email and thank them for attending?
I'll do that tomorrow. I have actually a little time, so I'll do that.
Okay, great, thank you. We can go backwards here and talk about president, vice president. That's, we've been beating that dead horse for a long time. As you know, thrown my head in the ring to step down and be on the board. It was, I learned a lot this year. It was great. It was more work than I thought. I think that 1 year is really a realistic term for anyone to do the officer positions. We've had several people do this and burn out, so it would be wonderful if someone would to step up and take one of those positions, but we just, haven't been able to do that. And the board is sort of small, so it's nice to expand and get more people. Maybe in the future, that's a position easier to fill. I have one suggestion, and that is we lead this coming year by committee. I think that if we have 4, 5, or 6 board meetings in a year, I think we only had 4 this past year. We used to do 5 or 6 a year. I think maybe 1 month was skipped because of Christmas or holidays. Let's say if we have 4, let's say we have 1 a quarter, 4 meetings a year. If 4 people here were to step up and lead a meeting, write the agenda, lead the meeting, I think that would really help us get through the year. And I'll throw my hat in the ring and say, I'll do that. I'll do one of those. The other, one of the issues is having a representative on CTU. And they have quarterly board meetings as well. And we need representation on that. And they want a VP or president for that. I don't know what we're going to do about that. I've attended a couple meetings. Reed's attended a couple meetings this year, I think. Reed, how often do you sit in on the CTU board meetings? We've had representation. It hasn't involved much of any of my time. It's more having a quorum so they can conduct their business.
Karen, I've been to a few meetings, like Glenwood Springs and stuff, and Summit County a few years ago, but ever since COVID, I'm on the Bull Moose Committee, and that meets monthly, first Monday of the month. And we deal mostly with state legislature and federal legislation. That's our task. And so there are several members of the CTU board that are on that committee too.
So Rick, I think I said this to you or some other people, the job of our president or vice president can be pretty organizational and basic, and you have your name as liaison with CTU or national. You can go as far and above that as you want to, or you can do what we need to do, especially in these COVID times, to just kind of keep our chapter a little bit engaged and going. What do you think took up the most of your time?
Correspondence,
With whom?
and Tom Falk has been very active in that too. The chapter objecting to different activities that happened on the river, probably 3 organizations this year that we objected to, and that leads to getting other chapters involved, communications with CTU, other chapters to join in. That takes time, of course, putting agendas together for meetings.
You know, in some years, as a secretary, I did that. I would just make a call for agenda items and people would send those to me and I'd put them on the agenda. Other presidents like you or whatever put their own agenda together. I can't remember what Keith did, but there's a variety of ways to do that.
Well, I've got a couple different things I'm doing that I need to spend more time with, to kind of let go. And so I'm not a candidate for either one of those, but I certainly can continue to do some of the things I've done, like I mentioned, some of those things I mentioned. But I think that, Pam, if you were to run a meeting, Karen's kind of hard for you, and take notes at the same time. But if we were to all step up and take a meeting, if they're 4 a year, and I think we've been, 3 of us, the 3 officers, have been kind of running things together by committee, and it's worked out pretty well. I don't think we've missed any details. I think things have gone pretty smoothly this year. So that's
Aaron, how does the league do that? They don't have a president either. They do stuff by committee.
Who's that?
Yeah, the League of Women Voters has a leadership team, but we still do kind of have a person who makes our agenda, and then we all do different things, what needs to be done.
I have a suggestion, Rick. What's been the protocol in the past? After the election, you decide on your leadership, or how do you usually do it?
Railroad, sorry.
Well, my suggestion is.
I'm not sure how to answer or what you're asking.
Okay, well, my suggestion is that we've had this discussion. We continue to discuss it. We know where we're at. So I would say that let this election happen next month, and then we have an organizational meeting right after that, within the next couple of days, and decide what the leadership should be, and then re-enlist our committee chairs if they want to continue, and make sure that those chairs want to continue. If they don't, who wants to take the leadership role in the committee, and then that committee chair then tries to recruit members for that committee. So that's why I asked what's been done in the past. But if
I think Keith or Karen can answer that. I think that we've had in the past December or January planning meeting for the year, but one of those guys could go into that a little more. I'm usually gone in the winter, and so I've never attended. I can't really speak to it. I'm usually gone about 4 months, and I will be again this year. So
When do you leave, Rick?
Leaving in December, back in April. So I've never attended, but Jim, you're right. There has been planning meetings. That's the time when committee assignments happen, and the time to review what we've done and what we need to do going forward. But Keith could probably. Gene, go ahead. You ready?
Well, we have Eric and Larry leaving, but Eric said he would still keep his committee assignments. I guess Larry is gonna completely disengage from any committee assignments as far as I know. But so everybody else should be staying on. Did we ever canvass people who are currently in committee chair positions to see if they would continue?
What's happened in the past, because I've not been here for those. And by the way, Larry is not on, he's only on special events. So with Larry leaving,
He wasn't a chair of anything anyway.
No.
Has anybody asked him if he'd continue to organize his camping trip?
We did. I remember a board meeting where we asked that, and he said that it's very, his answer was no. It's very hard to put together, that you have to reserve way. It's hard to find campgrounds these days, and only 3 or 4 parties anyway. So that dropped for that reason.
So Rick, what I'd like to suggest to move this along is that we ask, I have to admit, I apologize. I need to have another updated list of the committees and who the chairs are.
It's on the website. It's on the website, Jim. You can go online.
Okay, so
go online and print this off right there.
Okay, so we get a lot of feedback here.
We're getting feedback.
I'll just say that Larry Payne actually attended a couple of CTU meetings with me and by himself. So it's too bad he's going away from that, because he was kind of a representative to report back on those CTU meetings once in a while. The bylaws actually state that the president appoints committee chairs. Now, I pretty much told people what committee they were on, as I recall, after talking with him a little bit, but that's the process. President appoints committee chairs. Committees are developed and defined by the board, but I remember copying that list of committees almost verbatim for 2 or 3 years running, so they haven't changed that much. And just a third point I want to make, before I became president, we tried a tripartite presidency. I believe it was Larry Payne, myself, and Jim Impara that were supposed to rotate the meetings, kind of what you were talking about, Rick. I don't know why time schedules, preferences, personalities, it didn't work. We just didn't have a person to step up and do the umbrella organization. The year after that, we tried that. That's when I became president. So I'm not saying don't try it again, but it's not like we haven't flirted with multiple people trying to organize chapter meetings and events and communications.
I would add that we used to have a strategic planning meeting in January, which was very beneficial because that's when the committees were formed and staffed. Did our best to set up a schedule of meetings for both the board and member meetings. So I would recommend we set up a strategic planning meeting in January to discuss what the activities, the programs, and the boards and the look like going forward.
Well, so that is part of what I was asking. Is there's nothing in place that we have on the calendar to set this organizational meeting up. We just, it's kind of, it's open-ended. So I'll make a motion that we have a January strategic meeting where we pick our officers and committee members and move forward from there.
I second that motion.
I'll just add something here. The strategic planning meetings, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I did those every time we did them, maybe for 4 or 5 years running. You don't just sit down and start coming up with ideas. You have to have a schedule and a plan and subject matter to discuss at the strategic planning meeting. It usually takes 4 or 5 hours. It's not a 2-hour meeting. I guess in the final analysis, my problem with it was we'd come up with a beautiful strategic plan and no one would apply it. We'd have it written down, but everybody just go with that. Okay, we have it written down. You still need the bodies. You still need the leaders. You still need the people to implement a strategic plan. So I was for it for 5 years in a row. I'm still for it, but there are certain, I don't know, structural requirements and drawbacks to doing that. I'd be glad to provide anybody with the outline of the last couple I did as a starting point, but you need a structure for discussion based on previous years and not just trying to start from square one.
Okay,
Yeah,
let
maybe
me restate my motion. That I make the motion that we have a strategic planning meeting within the first 2 weeks of January, where we select our officers and committee chairs and assignments. Once we have that, that's the end of my motion. But once we have that, then it's up to us to move forward with it. So I agree with Keith that we just need to, that's where the president comes in. A little bit of a nudge and then boom, we move. So my motion is a strategic meeting within the first 2 weeks of January, select our officers, committee chairs and assignments and move forward.
That's a good, I want to add to that motion. And backing up for just a second, I think with the strategic meeting, I think maybe that was just too big an apple to undertake and therefore too much time and it never went anywhere. The goals are pretty specific, Jim. I like what you suggested. I'd add to it, putting together the schedule of board meetings and chapter meetings at that same meeting. And that will give us a blueprint going forward of when the board will meet and when importantly, when the general membership meetings will be. And all the 4 new candidates were asked to look over the committee, the different committees, and pick where they want to serve, whatever fits their interest. And we'll get that information from them between the election and the January meeting and plug all those names in. And that meeting could be, I suggest, the 3rd Wednesday of the month, the 18th, January 18th, first board meeting, which will cover these specific items.
Okay.
So if can I say something? Okay. So in the past, when we had the strategic meeting, a bunch of times we actually hired a moderator to run it. A lot of times the meeting went from 9 a.m. until 2 or 3 p.m., with a kind of a catered subway lunch. And I know that I think it's the Chaffey County Community Foundation now that actually offers a moderator and help with strategic planning to local nonprofits, since that's kind of their role. So it might be interesting to see what they have to offer that might help us streamline this a little bit more. Without a moderator, sometimes things get off course very quickly, and they're interesting discussions, but they don't necessarily push us forward. So I believe that, the meetings that Keith set up, we still had a moderator to kind of, push us through the whole schedule.
Yeah, my experience with strategic planning meetings is that most of the work has to be done before the meeting. You got to get an agenda for what you're trying to accomplish, and everybody gets an assignment for putting something together. You just can't expect to solve all the problems just by showing up at this meeting. So, what Tom is suggesting is a moderator who would probably give us some guidance on what we have to do before the meeting occurs to be well prepared to make some progress. So,
So I'm looking at the 2019 CAS meeting survey. This is what Dan Almaster was hired to do. And we were the pilot chapter to
mhm.
outreach and figure out, you know, what are our goals, short-term, one-term, long-term, our challenges, you know, revenue, those kinds of things. And I'm not sure it did anything. The same problem is we don't have members willing to step up to serve as officers. You know, now again, the president,
That's the
you
big.
put some stuff down on paper, you put your name on the CTU thing, you submit the information to your board of the things that need to get done, or direct them and delegate to see, you know, if we can keep moving forward. I just, I don't know that I want to sit in a meeting for 4 or 5 hours beating the same damn dead horse.
I totally agree, and I've heard criticism from, I don't want to mention anyone, that these meetings went nowhere. There's a lot of time and there's sort of a plan and nothing materialized. So my point I'm making is I think that might be just too big a horse to bite off. Or, that maybe we ought to shrink this idea of this big strategic meeting, which usually goes nowhere after the meeting is over, and get back to what Jim is talking about, and that is make some specific committee assignments. And I'd like to add to that, set our calendar of when we're going to meet, and go from there. Whatever else develops from that particular meeting, and have it as a regular board meeting in January, and just focus on those issues, and not have another meeting of strategic planning that seems to go nowhere each year. Yes, Jim.
Okay. So we're still in discussion of my motion. I'm gonna restate it. I'm gonna rephrase it with, I am making a motion that we have an organizational meeting within the first 2 weeks of January to select our officers and committee assignments. And that's it. So strategic plan, I like to back, first we need our folks in place before we can have a strategic plan. So if we need to do it in December, but if January is the right time, first get everyone in place, and then after that, you decide on another session to move us forward, if it's a strategic plan or whatever you want to call it. But I believe if we could at least have, again, an organizational meeting within the first 2 weeks of January to select our officers and committee assignments. That's my motion.
Jim, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 9 board members and 2 officers. What else are you going to organize? There's
Right.
there's no candidates for vice president and president.
Okay,
What's going to happen at the end of your meeting?
The reason I'm bringing that up is after an election of like an HOA that I'm on, we meet within a few days after that, and we select the president, vice, and secretary and treasurer. Now, you have 9 board members, but at that time, there's enough lobbying going on up until that time to hopefully get someone in place by the time you have that meeting. So we have 9 active members here. We're active because we're talking to each other. We're here this evening, or we have been. So what are we going to do is we're going to plan on that being an organizational meeting. However it goes, we deal with it then. And if all I'm making the motion of is to help move us forward into the new year and especially be organized enough to have this meeting where we're with our new, hopefully 4 more, 2 more and 2 replacements, that we can move forward with this organizational meeting. That's what
So-
I'm making the motion for, so we can move forward.
The problem is our bylaws don't really allow for that. We allow for elections of officers. You know, president was vacant, so our vice president took over our duties. It
I
might
guess I
say
need to
something
read
about
the
a leadership
bylaws.
team. I can't quite remember. I could look it up. In terms of our committee chairs, there's only, most of the committee chairs, all but maybe 2, have said that they will continue to do that. I'm not sure that we're going to get a vice president or president from the new 4 people. Next year, I bet I could twist Bobby Hamill's arm, you know, but I don't think that's, you know, the way to go. And I don't know if you or Bill or Kim would have the, you know, willing to just step up and say, okay, we're going to just do this for this.
Sure.
Here's an agenda.
I would-
Who else has other ideas? And come together
Well,
for a programming meeting, perhaps. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah. I would say that, you know, what Jim's proposing makes a lot of sense, you know, perhaps not the election of the officers, because that doesn't fit with the way that the chapters run, you know, bylaws and so forth. But I think that, you know, Jim and Kim have been, you know, obviously super helpful on the board, but they were never really part of any strategic meeting. You know, we're going to have 4 new people. And I think to get everybody on the same page with committees and seeing who's interested in what, you know, that might be a way to also engage the new board members, so they feel like they're a part of deciding the future of the chapter, rather than kind of saying, yeah, we have these committees and they're pretty much all taken, but, you know, but welcome.
I would suggest that after our meeting in November, when these new board members come on, we should get them on committees as soon as possible. And when we have this meeting in January, each committee needs to be prepared to present what they propose to do for the year. Because we need to get a schedule for meetings and projects and programs, whatever we're going to do for the year. That's what needs to be decided in January. And I agree, we're not going to elect any officers at that meeting. But the quicker we get the new people on committees, the better off we are. And if we wait till January to make committee assignments, then that doesn't give those committees much time to work. So I'd form the committee sooner.
Yes, Keith.
I think what we're talking about still the strategic planning meeting. That's where you decide what the new committees are going to be, what their names are, who's going to head them up, what the activities are, what the schedule for our meetings are. Are we going to still, you know, at a strategic planning meeting 6 years ago, we decoupled the board meetings from the member meetings. They used to be on the same night. We decided that wasn't working. That's what a strategic planning meeting does. The first one we had was facilitated, I can't remember her name, she's retired now, from Western State. She came over and facilitated our meeting. She gave us a bunch of printouts. We went through a bunch of questionnaires. That was summarized. Those years, I used that as a guideline, and in subsequent years, I edited that down, modified it, tried to make it a little more directed to our chapter. That's all written down. So yeah, I think it's, I'm not sure of the wisdom of just saying it's too big of a bite to take, because that's how you start your year, is deciding what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and who's going to do it. And by the way, our yearly report, I'm not sure whether it's a requirement or not, but it is a question. Do you do yearly planning meetings? For the last 5 or 6 years, we've always said yes. So, except for last year. So that's another issue that's being pushed by TU, is that chapters should have organizational and planning meetings at the start of the year. You know, we bring pizza So everybody got free lunch when they did them. But I don't think you should just say, well, it's too much work, because everything that Gene said, a lot of what Jim said, a lot of what Karen said is all planning, strategic planning issues and work that needs to be done. So don't just, I just wouldn't want to write that off. I want to interrupt here just a minute, Gene, and ask Kim. Kim, are you going to come Friday to Mount Uray and help with the fishing?
That's my plan. Yes. But I've kind of a lot of balls in the air this weekend, but yes, my plan is to be there at Mount Uray. Yep.
On Friday.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Gene.
Well, again, my point is, if we're gonna make progress at this January meeting, we need to have the committees in place so that the committees can come up with the ideas that they want to present at the planning meeting. If we wait till the planning meeting to form the committees and then expect them to come up with ideas at the same meeting, I don't think it's gonna work.
All that I'd say to that, Gene, is that we've had these committees also for multiple years. Their function is pretty well defined. You know, I don't think we have to start from square one there either. Make that part of the strategic planning meeting. How do we modify our current committee list and their work assignments as needed to better address the coming year? I think you'll find that you don't need to change that much. I guess what I want to do is look up the old guideline for strategic planning, print out the most recent committee assignments and descriptions, and send them to everybody. And then you can decide whether we need to do a strategic planning meeting. You know, I think they're important, and I think they're encouraged. And I think, you know, they've been a failed attempt, maybe in a specific brush, small brush sense, but they did give us direction. They did have consensus behind them. You know, there were good written statements there, and it was a good effort. The breakdown wasn't with the effort or what was written down, but with people. It was the people stepping up. Look where we are now. We have 10 people. We have 12 committees. You know, it's just the same old story. We've got good ideas, good programs. We just need bodies.
I agree with Keith, and I'm looking at the committee descriptions, and I don't think we have to reinvent anything with committees. It's pretty specific what each committee does. I think what we have to do is reassign people where they want to be on those committees, and ask them to plan what they're going to do for the year, and that can be presented at a future board meeting. I'm not sure that has to happen at a specific time. I know that scheduling board meetings in December is tough to do. Everyone's got so much going on. I'm thinking this has got to go in January, and I don't care what you call it. The meeting could be called strategic or organizational or whatever, but I think we need to just start out with, what are we going to do this year? Let's get the new people on board with the committees they want to be on. Those people that are on committees that don't want to, you know, let's reshuffle the deck. That can all be done in the January meeting. And I think it's important we plan our board meetings for the year at that same meeting. And if you want to go beyond that, you know, see where it leads. But I think that should be two big goals for a January meeting.
Well, and I think kind of as still a newbie to the board, and knowing that there's 4 new faces, new folks getting involved in this last year, and frankly, the last 2 years with COVID and all the things haven't looked like normal years. That time and investment of sitting down with kind of the new faces on the board and kind of really looking at some of that stuff makes sense. Because I would say we've had 2 years that aren't normal years, right? So it's a good opportunity to sit down and look at those assignments and share some information and knowledge with the new people, myself included to some degree, you know, because with COVID, we've had 2 years that are not, and not just for us, for the whole world, right? Good examples of what we necessarily want to be able to provide. So I feel like
I agree with you, Kim.
worthy investment, I think.
And Jim, I looked at the bylaws and it does allow for alternative leadership structures, and assignments of duties and committees. Our bylaws does allow that. I think strategic planning might scare some people, and we're going to have to be mindful that with this new group of people, they are working. We're going to have some evenings, which might be hard for Brian, and/or weekend meetings if we do a Saturday morning meeting. And I can send out a doodle for people to say, find some times in January when people will commit to do a 9 to noon meeting, 9 to 1 meeting or something.
Jim, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to withdraw my motion because we're stuck in here. And I'm going to rephrase. If you don't want to go with the motion, because I'm trying to move this forward, I'm not saying how we're getting into the logistics and the details of the meeting. All I'm trying to suggest is that we agree on having this organizational and planning meeting within the first 2 weeks. If once we agree to that, then we can talk amongst ourselves here within the next month or so of how we're going to do this. But once we have that goal of getting that meeting set up for our organization and planning, we'll have done as Jean said, we need to do, and Keith, take Keith's template and work with it towards that meeting. So we can, let's say we don't have a president and a vice president at that organizational meeting in January. Maybe we can get one at that meeting, but the point is we're moving in that direction for our new year. So again, I'll withdraw my motion, but I'm just trying to move this forward so we can
I know.
agree and move towards that.
Bill, you had a comment?
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to what you suggested, Rick, and have 4 people sort of take on something right now. Maybe that committee is the executive committee for the time being, and they can decide how we want to move forward. And I would be willing to work with you on that. And I hope a couple other people will jump in and we can kind of figure out how we want to do this between now and I'm going to guess we can do things that maybe even before this annual meeting, because that's still a month away, and come up with an idea at that annual meeting of when we might want to have our quarterly meetings and any other things that we need to come up with. And, to try to do things in this kind of a setting with 5 or 8 different people trying to all voice their opinions, I very honestly get frustrated with it. I would rather work in a smaller group, and with 4 people, you could probably get some things done.
All right.
I'm going to jump in here to kind of respond to what you just said, Bill. The purpose of that annual meeting is not to plan. It's to elect board officers.
What
We're
I'm
talking a
saying
year
is
in
that
review,
these 4
Pam?
people could come up with maybe the slate of officers or how we're going to do the executive committee to run the organization between now and then. So, because right now you're not going to have any officers to elect, Pam. There's nobody out there that's jumping in to do this.
I would agree. So I say we're showing those positions as being vacant. Now, according to our bylaws, if someone approaches any of us wanting to be the president or vice president, since the board is not presenting them as part of our slate, they can be nominated from the floor at the meeting. Yes,
Not
they
in our
can.
bylaws, not allowed in our bylaws.
Yeah, I do a reread because I've been reading them
I get it.
exclusively. It talks about if the position is not filled by the nominating committee and presented to the membership at the annual meeting, only then would they accept a nomination from the floor. But I think we have to stop fooling ourselves. We aren't going to have a president and a vice president. Let's move ahead with our slate of that we've pretty much developed. Karen as secretary, myself as treasurer, our new 4 or 5 board members, have a meeting in January, call it whatever you want, but it's a organizational and planning meeting. The membership meeting in November is a social get-together and is to elect a board, nothing more. It's a report to the membership of what the board's been involved in, but nothing more. There's no actions needed by the membership to tell the board what they think they want us to do. That's not the function of that meeting.
Yeah, Karen.
Well, you do have to have an election, and we might want to have to do that via SurveyMonkey or Zoom. Didn't we do something like that last year, Tom? We approved the slate because we knew everybody was, we might not have a quorum at the membership meeting, at the year in review.
Yeah, I think so.
There,
And we had a quorum.
at the membership meeting, because it was on Zoom.
Yeah, we had enough members to follow our bylaws. I forget how many people were present, but
But that's the weeds. But I have a question for Bill. Were you suggesting getting a smaller group of people together before the November 12th meeting? Or before December?
I guess
or-
I am. I just think we need to, if we're not going to have anybody step up to be president or vice president, we need to tell people at that meeting that we've got this meeting by committee in the meantime until someone either has the time or the inclination to go ahead and step into one of these positions. And I'm just wondering, according to what you guys say about the bylaws, if during the course of the year, if someone opted to volunteer to take one of those positions on, could they do that? Or does it
Yes.
have to be at a whole year away in a new election?
No, I've read the bylaws,
Okay.
Bill, and I believe the board can fill a position at any time.
So what I'm
By-
suggesting is just in
by
the
a-
meantime, have a smaller committee of 4 people that can kind of work on what's going on, where we're at now, where we want to be, and be able to do at the general meeting that we have in November, tell them what the situation is now, and that you've got a committee of 4 people who are going to go ahead and take the reins until something else might transpire. And if something else transpire, they're each going to run a meeting and fill in where they can. If some people can volunteer to go to the CTU meetings, and they'll do that. And we'll just have to work it that way, rather than just keep banging our heads around this all night long.
do we have to alarm the general membership meeting, the year in review meeting with that proposal?
Or can we have 4 people step up right now who will say they'll run one meeting? And then we can plan the dates of the board meetings and stuff after the November 12th meeting in Jim's suggested planning meeting.
We got Rick and I. Anybody else want to join?
Pam, you want to run a meeting?
I can run a meeting, but
There's
I do
3.
not, I do not want to be part of this group of 4, which makes no sense to me.
Well, this group of 4 would choose one meeting per quarter is I think what Bill's saying to do. One board meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm
Bill?
saying one board meeting, but they would also be saying that they would be willing to take on whatever sort of responsibilities our chapter has to CTU, to say that one of the 4 is going to go ahead and go to the board meetings or somehow fulfill what the obligation is. So it's not just planning 4 meetings. It's actually kind of going back to what we talked about before, when we had 3 people that was the executive committee people that were running the organization.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to ask, have we all agreed on having this organizational and planning meeting to start with?
I think we
Absolutely.
need to do that to get dates in there, but one question is, should that be in December or should that be in January? Or should we wait until we can survey all the people who are going to be on the board to see when it actually works for them? It's vital to have those new people there.
I proposed the beginning of the year in January that we have an organizational meeting, call it whatever you want, of the board, where we sit down and we decide and plan our meetings for the year and our committees and do the committee assignments at that time. Prior to that meeting, we'll ask all the 4 new board members and any board member for that matter to submit what committees they want to be on. And we will, at that meeting, have all our members, committees solidified. We'll have a plan of action for when our board meetings are. And I think at that meeting, we will all decide who will take on what meeting. 4 people, 4 meetings, or 4 people, 5 meetings, whatever the number that we put on the calendar. And I think that sets us forward for the year. Who's on what committee, and we all know what the committees do, and we're not going to reinvent committees tonight or at that meeting, and when we're going to meet. And if we have an evolution of anything new that we can plan, if all of a sudden we have someone who wants to, you know, be the president. But I think we need to pick, I agree with Jim, there was a motion, I'd like to hear another motion, that we pick a time and a date and we choose our committees, or divvy up who's going to be on the committees. We're going to decide when we're going to meet throughout the year. And other business that's related. And just get it going and we'll see what we can pick up. And I think in January is fine. I don't think there's a magic December that has to happen in December or November. Let's start off the year with a planning meeting, organizational meeting.
Well,
That sounds good.
if we can at least agree to this, we got something to go to shoot for. So I'm imploring us to agree to this organizational planning meeting, and somebody pick a calendar, pick.
I don't think we can choose a date. I don't think we can really choose a date. Like Jim, you're working. Kim's working. So you're stuck with weekends. If we're going to try to do a live in-person meeting, which I think is important with these new people. Is that
Live in
correct?
person.
What?
Doesn't have to necessarily be live in person. Zoom's been working just fine.
I don't think with new people that's true. I don't know.
Well, I
But-
think
but-
it's more organized to have a
Like what-
date.
We always meet in the evening. So the people
No,
that
we
are
don't.
working, it's an issue. Our board meetings are always in the evening.
No, they have not been, Rick. Sometimes
Well-
we've had board meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, but
There.
the last year I've been the
Well, let's
ones
just go with
in
recent
the evening.
Yeah, recent history, it's been in the evening. And that's been working for everyone just fine. And then we have people that are working, got to be in the evening.
But Brian
Unless
Ward
it's-
runs a restaurant. I don't know. I think it's just whatever you want to do. I'll just shut up. If those people can't come, it's useless.
Well, and
If it's in the evening, they can come. If they're
Ryan
working-
has a restaurant, Rick. You know how that works.
Brian,
Well,
I
we
don't think Brian works at night. He's not there a lot. He plays a lot. He'll make a meeting.
We're making too many assumptions that are keeping us from moving forward here. Come on.
I think what I'm hearing is that we agree that we need the meeting. And I would say that it's hard to know, especially with 4 people who we don't know their schedules. We don't know what would work. That I think for me, what I'm hearing is that we need a meeting. We've agreed we need a meeting. But maybe wait until year-end review meeting and we can sit down and then schedule with all those folks that we know we need to get scheduled. Does that make sense?
So you're suggesting tabling because we have to talk to everyone first about when we can meet?
I think that we've kind of, what I've heard is that we're agreeing that we need the meeting, right? And I feel like the other thing I've heard is December really is hard. I think January is kind of what we've landed on. And until we get those folks seated officially in their board positions, to wait to actually get a scheduled time at that point. Is that the consensus?
Well, I would like to nail down a specific date and time and put that out there and see how that works for everyone. If we stick with nights, then our dentist should be able to attend and our young person should be able to attend. And Brian, I think, can make it work. So I propose we meet January 18th 6 PM for an organizational meeting where we'll decide on when we'll meet for the year, who will run each meeting, and committee assignments. And on committee assignments, we can accomplish that via email prior to that meeting by asking all the new people to send in which committees they'd like to be on, and all the other board members, which committees they're on that they would like to be removed from, and reshuffle the committee deck. And at least get things done.
I think that's a good idea. I'm just wondering why you're going away from the second Wednesday to the third.
It could be the second, but do we normally meet on the second? Okay, that's the 12th. January 12th. Second Wednesday of the month.
I think the 12th is better also, and the 18th is a Tuesday, by the way.
Oh, is it? Okay. So January, my proposal is to have an organizational planning meeting, January 12th, 6 PM, where we'll decide on committees and dates for board meetings and who's on the committees and who will run the board meeting.
I think if it's as simple as that, it'll end up morphing into more than that, but at least that's our structure.
I second that motion.
All right.
I think we discussed the
Any-
crap out of it.
All right, let's vote on it.
Call the question.
Yay.
Are we putting
Three.
hands up to vote?
Okay.
I'm not going to vote because I'm not sure I'll be around at that point.
Well, this will be via Zoom, and I may be I'll be in Florida. I won't be around either. But I'll make a meeting long distance. Can you make a Zoom meeting where you're at?
Possibly,
January.
yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, at least we got the date set. Let's see how it goes.
Any opposed? So we've lost a few people, have we? All right, so it passes. We will send out an agenda for a meeting January 12th, 6 PM with those goals in mind. And if there's anything else that we can accomplish, hopefully that's not too long a meeting. We can certainly try to take it up. Yeah.
I'll volunteer to, okay, let me hold that a second. When are the state TU meetings?
Usually April is the spring one, and that's the big one. Who knows if they'll have it live in person or not. And there's a quarterly CTU board meeting. But historically, you know, sometimes we've had board members go, sometimes we haven't. It hasn't always been the president. And they've been having them by Zoom and could well continue to do that.
Okay, I'll volunteer to attend those state meetings. Maybe that'll help soften the blow here a little bit. But as far as who's going to do what.
All
If
right.
that's okay with you, I'll volunteer to do it. And the reason I'm bringing that up too is because Reed and I are in the advocacy committee. And I really want to emphasize being involved in the politics of how we run, what we're involved in. And Bob Hamill is very much involved in that. So between he and I'll twist his arm if I have to, but maybe he and I can tag team this, but just to have our chapter representation at the state level. I know we've had a lot of discussion on that. Whether it's an officer or not, I think at least if we have that in place, I'll volunteer if that helps.
All right.
That's great.
wonderful.
To be the CTU liaison.
Well, for now, let's call it that.
Okay.
We have a,
Jim,
we
I'll
have a
back you up if you can't make a meeting. This is Reed. I'll back you up if you can't make a meeting.
Okay,
And we
so
have-
see, there we go. All right, thank you.
yeah, we have one next week, so I'll bring that up. Good. Gosh, that was a long time.
It's almost
Here-
8 o'clock.
Yeah. Let's
Where are
turn
you
real
now?
quick to year in review, guys. As y'all know, there's several members that don't want to attend an in-person enclosed meeting, I proposed sending out a survey to membership and find out how big that number is. Tom Palkus put together a simple, easy survey that he could send out as an attachment, if I'm saying this correct, with tomorrow's slate that Pam is going to put together. The agenda, which Pam and I worked on today, she'll get that to him tomorrow. Are there any objections to this kind of discussion of should we really be meeting in person, and asking the board to make that, asking the membership to make that decision for us?
I already filled out Tom's survey.
Jane, you,
I
Tom, you
would
didn't-
ask if they would be willing to attend a Zoom meeting or be willing to attend the in-person meeting. And some people might be willing to do both.
Tom, you haven't sent that out yet, have you?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I haven't sent it. The question was basically, there's just a question, would you come? Yes, I'm comfortable with in person. 2, I prefer Zoom. 3, no, I can't come. That's basically the only question in the survey.
But you only get to answer one. What if, would you be willing to do Zoom or in person? Or
Yeah, I guess I assume that, like anybody who would come in person would be willing to do Zoom. I just kind of wanted to get an idea of how many people are actually interested in coming, period. But, I'm happy to reword it any way you want to.
I think unfortunately, we're still dealing with this uncertainty of a disease that's affecting everyone. So I think we have to, it's fine to ask these questions, but it really does depend on from one month to the next. And when we have our board, us, make a decision, we go for it, go with it. And then if we have to adjust because of this, we've had to do it for almost 2 years now, but I wouldn't get all caught up on whether we should or not. It just depends. Every month that goes by, it depends.
Well,
So we
and
need to make a decision soon, though.
I was gonna
That's
say,
true.
I know
Yeah.
like the school board meetings, there's a word for it. It's both. We have an in-person meeting, it's broadcast, but then it fits, if you don't want to be there in person, you can watch it or participate remotely.
Wait.
But for those folks that aren't concerned about being in an in-person session, they can be there too.
That-
I don't know the logistics of that, but it's possible.
That-
I think we could do it.
Yeah, that would be the perfect solution, but the technology is difficult.
Yeah.
Tom Alka can testify. Rotary tries this, and it's they have difficulties. So I
Yeah,
would
I
like to
agree.
just squelch that idea. I don't think for our first time we're going to be better than any of the other organizations that have tried it, that have failed at it. I
Well,
think it-
That being said, I mean, I've had three school board meetings in a row where we've made it work. Again, it might not be ideal, but I don't know that either of the other solutions is either. I don't know.
Well, it could possibly work for us. We had someone that knew how to do it. Tom Palka, you guys had a Rotary meeting today and it didn't work, did it? And how many times you've been doing this now? Where it was a combination, just like you suggested, Kim, in person or Zoom, and it doesn't seem to be working for people I'm talking to. Got any
Yeah,
comments?
in the Rotary, it's been kind of a pain. There are, I think, 20 or 30 people at Robbins, so there's a lot of noise. They pass a microphone around, which goes over the PA system, and then a laptop that has Zoom running with 2 cameras, picks up the sound. So the sound is really difficult to hear. They have a presentation on a screen behind that shows either the Zoom participants or otherwise. But like today, none of the Zoom participants could be heard for whatever reason. So, people at the meeting are scrambling, trying to figure out, how to fix it. I don't know. I felt like it's just kind of a lot of hassle. And I think I missed probably about 60% of what people talk about. And for us
Yeah,
to do that at the
Bill,
meeting.
you got your hand up?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just ask a quick question? Is there anybody here that hasn't been vaccinated? Do you think that the majority of the members of our organization would be vaccinated? And if they are, what would there be a problem with coming to a in-person meeting?
Well,
There are people that
Yeah.
have a problem with it. They
Yeah.
are-
How many? I'm gonna guess it's not very many, Rick.
Delta's
Well,
pretty
let me
contagious.
put it this way, Barbara has difficulty finding someone from Flygals to do the Flygal report. Barbara will not be here for it. Linda, several people have said, no, I'm not coming to any in-person meeting. These people know that most of our age group are vaccinated, most all of us are, but there are people that have a problem with being indoors. So that led, my thought is send out to membership, will you come to an in-person meeting next month? Or would you prefer it to be via Zoom? And let the membership decide and not the 9 of us.
I think
You
that's
know-
good. And we also need to have kind of that count for food if we're providing, the meat. And then if we decide to go in person, we can Zoom and share that screen and record it and post it for people to watch the
Certainly.
year in review slideshow later, correct, Tom? You could do that? And you'll be there if in person, if we decide to do that?
I don't know, actually. I'm one of those people who's not very comfortable about going to in person. So I've actually have not gone to a single in-person meeting, but
But we could
but
just
if they
save
have
the
a camera or
PowerPoint.
something. Yeah, I can post the PowerPoint and I can post the slideshow. So yeah, that'd be no worries.
Okay.
I
I
think-
just have to go on record to say that I do not think we should do a survey. And my primary reason is we send it out to 300 people. We get 20 responses that says, no, I cannot, I do not want to attend. What do we do with that? That is worthless information. Are we saying the other 280 will attend? No. I think we need to say, as a board, we're having a meeting, year in review. This is where it's going to be. This is what's going to happen. Show up. We would love to see you, but if you, for your personal reasons, do not want to attend, that's fine. But to have the membership tell us what kind of a meeting they want, it's too late.
No, we're
True.
asking if they're going to attend. Are you willing to attend the meeting in Poncha? Are you willing to participate in a Zoom meeting?
Okay, so we get 15 people that say, I will not attend an in-person meeting. Do we say, great?
No, we're asking who will attend, not who will not attend. We
Well,
want to know who's going to be there, not who's not going to be there.
we're giving them 3 choices. Yeah, I'm gonna be there. No, I don't want to be there. And yes, I'd like to see it in a Zoom. What do we do with that?
Make a decision.
Well, we need to make the decision soon.
Well, this is where I have to agree with, that's what a board does, makes the decision for the group. It's representative form of government. So I agree. We need to get on with the decision. And if we have to make a call it last minute rescinding of the decision, that's what we have to deal with. But right now, I'd probably attend, knowing that everything else we've done is socially distanced and all the careful things we do when we have a meeting, whatever we may attended this year. So I think we should have the in-person meeting, and I agree. Let's just plan on it. Whoever shows up, fine.
Is
Except
there
it can't
anyone-
just- I would suggest that Tom send that survey with that question. Will you attend our in-person November 12th meeting? We are happy for you to wear masks. Well,
Well, I wouldn't put it, I have to agree
Well-
with Pam. I don't know what you do with that. We made the decision.
We
We're
buy
gonna have the
food,
meeting in
Jim.
Poncha. We were gonna have it. See ya.
but the problem is, in the past, we've had 40 or 50 people. If we only have 20 people, we've spent a whole lot of money on pulled pork or whatever the hell we're doing, or maybe we're not providing the food and it's just a strict potluck, but that's not what I thought we were doing, but maybe I missed something
How
somewhere.
did you know who would attend in the past?
Because historically, that's how many people came.
Yeah,
For a
and
decade.
since we're in historic times of difference,
Asking them to RSVP would be good. Like for our Boys and Girls Club event, live and in person, we had 140 people.
well,
They had to
then
be vaccinated.
then
Well, and
it's-
maybe-
it should be an RSVP then.
I was gonna say, and maybe it's just a terminology. It's not a questionnaire or survey. It's just an RSVP. We just
I
have to
agree.
decide.
And maybe
Right.
we make it vaccination only.
Oh,
more
then,
comfortable with
then you get into the sensitive areas when you say that.
That's the recommendation of Chaffey County Public Health for a gathering.
I agree with Kim. Let's make it an RSVP. That will let us know what to expect. And plan accordingly. It's stay away from the whole vaccinated mask situation. That's a hot button that will take you absolutely nowhere.
I
And I-
disagree.
I was gonna say, and I think it's okay to say, and just like we do again at school, like, and we're in a situation at school where we can say, if you come into any of our school buildings, you have to wear a mask if you're there as a guest. And it's that strongly recommended. And I don't know that you have to require it or say, but that it's welcome. That if you feel more comfortable showing up in a mask, then that's okay. If you feel like you're not comfortable to be there in person, mask or no mask, then that's okay too. Like, there's no judgment. We understand, we get that we're all coming into all of these crazy situations from our own places and perspectives, that there's no judgment. It's just masks are recommended. You can even say, per Chaffey County Public Health, whatever. But we're not going to turn you away necessarily, but I don't know,
Well,
that
Okay.
thousands of organizations are having the same kind of discussion.
Yeah.
Of course.
we're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah, well, our core group that comes to this is around 30 plus people, and they're mostly our age. I would think that most of them are vaccinated. I would be willing to bet most all of them are, wouldn't you think?
But they still may not be comfortable because of the breakthrough.
So I like the idea of asking, sending out the Survey Monkey, asking for an RSVP. So make sure that we have enough people that are going to attend to give us a quorum. I really think we then add that wearing masks, if you feel comfortable, is widely accepted. That's wonderful. Wear a mask if you'd like. And we strongly encourage only vaccinated people attend. And if one or two people that haven't been vaccinated of that 35, 40 core group aren't, then they're not there that night. Sorry. I personally don't want anyone at that meeting that's not vaccinated. Sorry, that's the way I feel.
I agree.
I don't want to wear a mask. I wear masks a lot, but it's a kind of a social thing, and we're drinking, we're eating. So if people want to wear a mask, we should encourage them to do so. I personally won't, but I will. I feel strongly, I think people that come to this meeting should be vaccinated. Because it puts it just puts the rest of us, and that's not too big a deal to ask. And there's only a small core, and they're all our age, and they probably all are vaccinated anyway.
Is it, we can get pulled pork. It doesn't take 12 days to do that. Could someone write a little article for the newsletter that would go out on November 1st as the chief article about what this is? And there is an RSVP due by November 2nd. I don't know. Rather than doing a Survey Monkey.
How do you RSVP to a newsletter?
Pardon me?
How would you
Tom could have
RSVP?
a link to the survey as an RSVP, I believe.
Yeah, just what Karen said. We would just have a Survey Monkey with, yes, I'll come. no, I can't. And we don't really
That-
care about the no's. We just look at the yeses.
I agree. It doesn't have to be an article. It's just simply, let's have them put the Survey Monkey in the newsletter, be done with it.
Okay. RSVP masks are welcome if you feel so comfortable, and I'd also push for, stick
I will
them with
write
the-
a little article and send it to you guys, and then Tom can set up the Survey Monkey and you can edit it.
Mr.
right.
Chair, I gotta leave in a few minutes.
All right, Jim, just sign off when you have to go. We're moving on, and there's not much left here. Larry's not here. I was going to ask him to do the food. Fly Gals, Barbara's going to ask you, Kim, if you could give a brief report on that. She'll send the slide in and the information. Someone just needs to make a comment. No one in Fly Gals wants to come to the
I'll-
meeting.
I can do it.
Hey, you'll be there and
Okay,
you'll
I'll
do it.
work with you, Kim, to get the slides.
And
Barbara
Keith, are
sent
you
me
still,
some info already.
is Keith here? Still? Need Keith to do River Watch.
Are
He's
you,
already planning to do that. He's
Bill, go
redoing the
ahead.
slides.
if you're talking about food, is that just something like we'd get from, the smokehouse or something like that? Or are you talking about whoever volunteers to do that has to make the food?
No. We've just ordered in the past. We've just ordered from Skenga. From them.
Throwing it in crock pots.
And then everybody
for
else
sure.
brings the side.
Eat and serve.
Did you say you wanted to do that, Bill? I didn't hear you.
Said yes.
You said yes. Okay.
Bill, you said you're bringing the food, the barbecue from
I'll
Skip?
sort out the food from Skanga.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So there's so few people that are probably gonna come to this meeting, and then we're asking them to bring side dishes and desserts. Should we just say that we're gonna bring the meat, the sides, and a dessert? You don't have to bring anything? That might get more people to come.
Good idea, Gene. We could just get pulled pork, buns, coleslaw, and some dessert.
I agree.
And eliminate the possibility of contamination if someone is sick.
Yeah,
Well, it
brought in
simplifies
their
things quite a
food.
bit.
I think that's a great idea.
And
All right.
if
Way
we
to
know how
spend-
many people are coming, we can get an appropriate amount of food and it would go smoother than people bringing stuff.
All right. That's a good suggestion. All right, we'll
agree.
provide, we'll
Just
provide. the
real
food.
quickly, logistically, we would just use the silverware and everything there, or do we also need to do plastic setups?
We should buy paper
Say we
plates.
Probably need.
We have a
plastic
ton of that
things.
stuff in the shed.
plasticware.
Yeah, they do not provide that, Bill. They don't provide utensils.
But usually people bring their own. So you bring
Yeah,
your own
so-
tableware and your
Right,
own
people would
drink.
still need to bring their own.
Is that
But
what we
we-
want to do? Why don't we just buy 100, package of 50 plates and plastic forks and knives and call it a day?
We can do that, and there's probably that in the shed.
Yeah, keep it simple.
All right. Who's going to the shed that week that can decide whether we need to buy from the grocery store or supply those things ourselves?
Keith will probably be going down there, or Jerry Wright, on Thursday to get all the fishing gear for Friday. So you might ask them to check on that. I'm not sure if I'm,
I'll call Keith about that.
thank you so much, Bill. Thank you.
Okay. Karen, do you have the tribute? Are you going to handle that since you know everyone that's passed away? Who's going to talk about those, or do we talk about them? Are we just going to list them and?
We usually
and
have
not
their
go-
photo from their obit. I don't know if I can pull those up again. Tom, you probably have that from the newsletter, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Let's just re-pull that stuff from the newsletter and put it on a slide for Paul and Nancy. Those are the only two I know. Anybody else?
I think this year that's it. But yeah, I'll look through and I'll send them to Gene and CC Karen just for double checking.
Perfect.
So So Pam and I have that listed as a committee report, I think. We'll just scratch that if it's in there, and it'll just be something that comes up on the slide. This is Veterans Day. Do we need to do, in the past, we've done a tribute to the veterans. I don't recall what that was. Do we need to deal with that? Or can we just slide by?
We didn't do anything with the vets this year, so,
No, I'm talking about it's Veterans Day, the day we meet.
yeah, I know.
And we've done a tribute to veterans.
You want to just do the pledge in honor of them? There's probably a flag there, or not?
No,
Okay,
no.
I prefer not to.
okay.
I've got you down, veterans activities. Gene, we didn't do anything, so I guess,
Well, I can explain what
Well,
happened, why we didn't do it, and what we're looking at in the future.
we'll leave it on and you'll,
Yeah, I'll have one slide and a few comments.
all right. Same with scholarship, nothing happened. Barb's not giving that report. I am, and I'll just, for the same reason, COVID, we didn't have any applicants.
Rick,
So
what you
y'all-
have in your agenda is starting at 4 o'clock for the year in review. Are we starting at 4 o'clock or 5
Or-
o'clock?
I thought I wrote 5. It's 5.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
At 5, and Pam did the same exercise today. I started the agenda for the year in review this morning, and through all the phone calls and emails, I finally got it done about 3. I sent it out, and Pam sent it out at the same time. She put it together. I like hers a little better, as she's thinking of things I wasn't, like fun stuff like a raffle and tributes to Volunteer of the Year, and a thank you to the Grays for their years of service of running the fishing derby. So she's going to marry our 2 together, send them to Tom Polka tonight, and along with our slate that y'all have a copy of, and he will send out a blast tomorrow morning of those 2 items. And then on November 1st, as we all decided tonight, we'll write a brief little of an RSVP. Mass are not encouraged, but if you are welcome, if you want to bring a mass, that's great too. And we encourage vaccinated, our members, of course, to be vaccinated. I'm going to wind this up. There's more details on the year in review. They're small, and we can work those out individually with Gene and committee chairs. So all I got, comments. What do we
Rick,
got left?
I just have one question on the agenda that I'm going to send to Tom Polka tonight for the blast to the membership tomorrow. You know, the things that I would like that I added that we hadn't talked about was just a Volunteer of the Year award certificate. I'm throwing out Michael Harrington as our first recipient of that for the years that he's been sending in his poetry to our newsletter.
Anyone have a problem? Michael being the Volunteer of the Year?
Yeah, that's me personally, you know. I kind of think I enjoy reading it. I hope other people do as well. He's been doing it for a long time. It's a big part of the newsletter, and we need to start recognizing some of our volunteers.
So how
I guess
about a
I'd rather see it-
lifetime?
Go ahead.
It's more than a year. He's been doing that for a
Oh,
long
he's
time.
been doing it for years.
So,
Decades.
You said that.
so,
Years.
you know,
I'd say outstanding volunteer instead of volunteer of the year.
Yeah,
Outstanding volunteer, okay.
yeah.
And I suggested to Keith that he nominated Jerry Wright as to CTU for volunteer of the year, because he always steps up at our conservation camps and the derbies and our stream explorers things. And he wanted to do that.
Okay, no objections to Michael?
No, that's great.
Well, then how about
Uh,
Jerry?
Pam?
We're gonna have 2 outstanding volunteers?
Well, I
Pam,
think let's wait until it's maybe next year if CTU accepts him as that, and then we recognize that at next year's. Do you think?
Okay.
I think that's good, Karen. I think it's something new. And I think we also need to recognize Barbara and Margie Gray for their years of handling the BB Fishing Derby.
Do that.
So that's
course.
in this agenda. And then just a thank you to Rick, Larry, and Eric. We don't need to get into too much detail in our agenda about what that should look like. But I think we just need to say thank you.
And no gift certificates. As you were questioning whether we should do that. I'm speaking for Larry too. That came up before. Larry said, let's not spend chapter money on gift certificates for board members. So I'm in
Okay,
agreement. So
you'll get
you
a
will hand-
cute little certificate of appreciation in a cheap frame.
whatever, I don't need anything, but you will handle that.
$5 gift card might be nicer and more useful.
So the last before adjournment is the thank yous, miscellaneous, and wrapping things up. And Pam, you will handle that then with the thank yous to the three groups of the acknowledgements of the three parties. I shouldn't
Yes.
say three, more than that, but
Yes.
all right. You'll finish it off and we'll adjourn and end the meeting. Anything else? Any comments?
Thanks for
You sure?
sticking in there. I'm sorry. I don't know how many years I've gone through this. But it's just frustrating. But I'm so excited to have young people like Kim and Brian and all those people. Hopefully it'll get up there. And Rick, you've done a great job stepping in, and thank you for
Thanks.
stepping up, Bill.
Yeah, it was a frustrating meeting. I have to say, we had a lot of things to cover and crammed too much in, and some of them are controversial. So
But we did wear Jim down, because that's a big thing, is to be the CTU liaison.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's big.
That
That's
was
big.
why Reed was on the call, if we had to go to that. There. So,
Okay,
thanks,
Okay, well,
everybody.
I think we're done. And
Okay.
Pam, shoot me an email later tonight if any more questions on that. I'll assume you'll send the slate and the agenda to Tom. He's expecting it. And have lots of game plans here. We got a lot of work done. Wasn't easy. We weren't all
Yeah.
in agreement, but we never will be. This is big stuff we covered. Thanks for everyone participating.
Thank you.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Night, everyone.
Need a beer.